watch another video. Today we are talking about the film If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power, which was written by Halsey, starred in by Halsey. And I'm very excited to talk about this. I just talked about the album like a day or so ago. And in that very extensive reaction, I would say, I was so disappointed that I hadn't seen the film when it aired on August 25th. But I looked at my local theater right after, and there was one for today. And I just came from the movie theater a couple hours ago, and I've been developing some thoughts because I watched it and it was really cool to really actually see it. And as a result, I have some thoughts that I would love to share with you. If you haven't seen it already, be warned, there are definitely spoilers in here. So don't watch on if you don't want to be spoiled. But if you saw it and want to, live with me for a little bit and talk about it, let's talk about it. Or if you don't mind being spoiled, let's keep going. But anyway, now we're officially getting into it. I first want to start off and say that the poster says a disruptive film experience from the mind of Halsey. And I think that's what you should think going into it. I think that's very good that she says it's a disruptive film experience rather than it's a movie. If you think of it as just a movie, first of all, it's going to be a really short movie at just an hour. And I also think you'll be confused because there's not a lot that you would get in a normal movie. You don't get a ton of dialogue. You don't always know exactly what's happening or what's in the mind. I think you have to do a lot of face reading, context reading, interpretation. And I think it's very good at telling you, hey, keep your eyes and ears open because there's definitely going to be a lot of cues that you might miss otherwise. I next want to get into the musical decisions because I think that is most relevant to my channel and how I mainly react to music. And I love that I listened to the album first because it allowed me to just vibe with the song I was playing and not wholly focus on the music that was playing. I don't think I would have actually gotten to pay attention as much to the film as a result. So it's interesting that Halsey dropped the film prior to the album being released because that means that they probably wanted to actually have us experience the film first before the music came out. But I'm really grateful that I actually did it the reverse way because if I don't know the song and I'm listening to the music video for the first time, I'm mainly just listening to the music video rather than watching it and actually getting a sense of it. I will be so entirely confused otherwise. And so it was nice that I already had that background and I just could function as a really cool soundtrack. One thing I did notice is I thought they were going to go in order because, I don't know, that just makes sense. I feel like albums are supposed to go in some sort of chronological order, but it doesn't. And that was very interesting to me. Just figuring out the first 15 minutes we're going to get to Whispers and I'm oh, interesting. You skipped over a lot of songs there. But it was very interesting to me that the album is done in a way that's not quite the way of the order of the movie. I think that's quite interesting, and I think it means that there's definitely a different order for why the album is the way it is versus how it is in the movie. I think I like the album order better than the movie order because I like how certain parts of the songs just transition to the next song. For example, we have Bells in Santa Fe transitioning super nicely into Easier Than Lying, and that doesn't happen in the film. They're minutes apart. And so I think it was nice to, as a result, get a different sense of interpretation about it. I also thought it was very interesting how the tradition was not in there. And I felt the tradition just felt the most in movie, in soundtrack song of the project. And it's not there at all. And I'm oh, that's quite interesting to me. Why you wouldn't include a song that definitely feels like it's made for a movie like this. Whereas you do get songs like Girl is a Gun and Lilith and songs like that, which definitely don't have the dark, edgy sounds that you might associate with like a suspenseful horror drama-esque like film performance. So I thought it was interesting that like the tradition was not included in particular. The other ones I get, I understand not having honey. I feel like that's such a niche song that like as much as I love that song, I don't think it would have fit the vibe of the movie, and I also don't think that it would have worked plot wise into the movie as well. And then the other one is You Asked for This, again, another song that I feel like has a lot more within like Halsey's discography and sounds again great, but at the same time I don't think it would have worked in the movie, so I understand that decision. And then we just really get to the fact that there's really just not that much dialogue other than that like one part where she, as the queen now, is talking to, I guess it's the dad of the former king. Like that's like the most words we get, and I think it's interesting. I think it challenged me to really understand and like look for context and try to figure out what the heck was going on. And I think that was beneficial. I think that like section did provide a little bit of clarity to ensure that, hey, I did understand the fact that like it was her husband who died and like they're now going to be after her, because like I don't think we would have really realized that. But I think it does give power to like the words. I also really liked the hi and hello that she gives that woman that lives in that like shed house, which I mean I understood that she was blind. She might have been deaf too, but at first I was really confused with the he who ho. It's been a minute since I heard it, but I think that was her telling her that she was pregnant. I think that's what that was about. But like it really made you judge things based in context rather than like really follow the plot. Because like I guess the plot isn't actually that like confusing, but there are some parts that definitely like could be left for interpretation, and I think she wants us to leave it to interpretation. Certain parts also reminded me that I was watching an R-rated movie. This is actually the first R-rated movie I've ever seen in theaters. It was the first time I had to get ID'd to see a movie. That was a new experience for me. And like I think that's mainly because I watch animated movies primarily. Like I really don't watch live action movies. And so it was a new experience for me to really like actually get into that and enjoy the movie. And so I wasn't really ready for all the stuff that an R-rated movie entails. First of all, notably, just previews of like horror movies and other R-rated things. I'm just like, oh, I'm glad I'm not watching you. Ugh. And also the fact that the whole Lilith scene, which that song still slaps, and I just love like Halsey's comfort and really just showing herself fully off, and all these other women or feminine presenting people showing themselves off. Like really, like I didn't expect that. And yeah, like it takes a lot of like boldness to really do that, like for the big screen, when especially you're a pop artist that a lot of people talk about and could trash you on like body image and stuff like that. So I'm glad she's in a stable and like self-assured place where she would do like that and feel okay about doing that. Because like obviously she wasn't gonna like not do it if she didn't want to. Like she did write the thing. So yeah, I'm glad that she feels that confident. Like I'm really happy for her. And then also the other RA stuff like the childbirth, like the beheading, which actually was the least graphic and gory that I think a beheading can be. So good on them. Oh, and then like the death at the beginning, like yeah, a lot. And also just like the allusions that there was some non-consensual action going on. So I really like that that was handled with a lot of dignity. I think it made it so it was like a part of the film, but it wasn't like something that like if you are triggered by that or have those experiences and you don't want to be re-traumatized, I felt like it was done in a polite enough way where like you can probably ignore it and it be like pretty okay. I now want to talk about the parts I was confused about because, as I said, it's a disruptive film experience. And while there were certain parts that, like, obviously, wow, impressive, like, there are also parts that I'm just like, ooh, I really just don't know what was going on here. One of those was very central to the whole movie, and that was, like, the person that kind of looked like her. Like, she looked through, like, a mirror or something like that, and it was, like, this different version of her and that figure like attacks her in her sleep. Didn't really know what that was about. And then at the end, that figure walks around like still alive or living, and like we even see the fathers of the king, like former king, like he's no longer alive on the ground, and a lot of the guards and stuff like that aren't alive. So I'm really confused about what that figure represents, who that figure is. Is that actually like Halsey, or I guess Queen Lila? Is that actually her? And that there was like a switcheroo? Like did her character die at the end? I have no idea. And that's confusing for me, and I would like to know why. Because I am confused. Because why else would she giggle at the end? Maybe she's just like, oh yeah, I found peace with it. I'm at peace. I did what I could, and my baby is going to grow up and be okay. But like, I don't see why they think that. Like, why would they think that? Like, you see that montage in Darling of, raising the child, but like they're not going to be around to see that, and who knows if that child's going to actually have a happy life. So I'm kind of confused about that, unless there was like a big switcheroo, and if so, how do they not notice that? A part I did understand, even though it was still in the disruptive nature, is that we have the bathhouse scene in both Lilith and then I Am Not a Woman, I'm a God, and we get this sense of preparedness. And like the first one, it's preparing to go out and have like a good time, and then this other one is really getting ready to go out of life. Oh, I kind of just realized that right then, actually. And then also, now my gears are turning a little bit more. If you think about it, so those are like bookended, so it's kind of like almost symmetrical, because then you have her dressing that black and white makeup and then like putting all the stuff on her, and I think that's pretty much like right after her husband passes on, and then it's her right before she's about to get beheaded. So that's really interesting. So it kind of like starts and ends with life no longer existing. So okay. Interesting. Okay, I see you, Halsey. I see you. Now I want to get into the things that like I also deeply applauded her. I mean, the stuff I understood and the music stuff from before are like definitely up there, but like I definitely wanted to give a deeper list of like the stuff I really enjoy from her. First of all, wow. Every look is stunning from the beginning to the end. There's not a look I don't like, or at least admire. Like, it's not like I'm going to love the fact that she drank some of her baby's afterbirth blood. Like, I'm not gonna like that as a vibe. Or her, like, the next day, like, in the clothes that she birthed the kid in, and, like her face all smeared. I'm not gonna, like, be excited about that, but I respect that and I admire that. Like, she's really willing to go there. And I also would say that, like, the look with Girl as a Gun is probably my favorite. But I also just like all of them. I think whoever the stylist was and, like, did wardrobe for this movie, I hope they got paid well, because they really earned it. Like, not just costumes, but also just everyone who worked on this movie. Like, it looked really good, and definitely is something to be very proud of. I also like that this is a whole narrative. I watched K-12, I think it was last year, by Melanie Martinez, and while that was a really cool concept, I would say, one thing I didn't like is that certain parts just kind of felt choppy to get to the next song that ended up being like the music video. So like, it tried to get me very personally invested in a lot of characters and invested in the whole thing. And sometimes the songs really mattered, sometimes they really didn't. And yeah, I thought it was like cool, but it was also like I was having trouble following along sometimes. And like, it sometimes made it feel like we were just getting a series of music videos and just getting like a sense of a flow between them and making it a visual album. Whereas here, I don't feel like it's necessarily as much of a visual album. It's definitely a film experience that accompanies the album quite nicely. But at the same time, I feel like the album stands alone as like stuff that can just be about her everyday life or just our everyday lives. It's definitely like more personally relatable than I think Melanie Martinez's K-12 album was. But also I feel like she had the concept and then she made the songs work in the soundtrack for it. Like, for example, 1121 is during the grave sequence, and it's I have a body to bury, and she has a body to bury, which is just like, I was like, ooh, perfect placement for this. I was like, if this song is not in the movie, I will be so weirded out. I'm still weirded out that tradition is not in there, but yeah, 1121 really needed to be in there. Speaking of which, like, the music really enhanced the experience. Nothing felt like it was a one-off. Like, I thought that at first Lilith was just kind of like, oh, it's there. But it wasn't really there because it really comes back to fruition in I Am Not a Woman, I'm a God. Girl is a Gun, I thought also was kind of like a little skit, basically. But it comes back to bite her when they're like, you've defiled our kingdom. And that's like the only one we can really think of as like defiling the kingdom. So I really thought it was cool how each song actually felt like it should be there. Like, no music was ever playing when it really shouldn't be there. Like, even sometimes the music will cut out and then come back in so we can get like that serious moment of like silence or a haunting sound and then just come back in. So I really appreciate the music as a soundtrack that I can not only listen to it without the film, but within the film, it's something that just gets me pumped, but I also am not losing sight of the actual plot and turns of the movie. And then again, I also wanted to reiterate just how much I applaud her for being vulnerable and showing this experience with like pregnancy, it's childbirth, and just her own physical body. Like, I mean, I can't imagine what birthing a child is like. I really can't. And I don't plan on being pregnant anytime in my life. I think it would be scientifically unlikely. And so as a result, like, I really appreciate her being vulnerable. I mean, I don't know if those pregnancy parts, like, were done when she was actually at that point in her pregnancy. Like, I don't know how CGI or costumes or however that is settled, but like, if that was actually like naturally done, which I feel like Halsey would be someone who would do that, impressive, beyond impressive. And so yeah, I really appreciate that. And last but not least, I also want to appreciate the cute but also clever way of saying that the movie is dedicated to Alev Aiden. I think that's how you pronounce his name. That's who Halsey is dating, and also her baby daddy. And then it says, and our best or greatest era yet. And her kids' initials are ERA. So it's that, but also like, is this her best work? Each like hour I think about it, and it's getting closer and closer to a yes. Like, I just think this is definitely like one of those moments where you're like pre and post this happening. For example, like folklore, for example. I think I bring up folklore a lot on this channel, but it's true. I think there is thinking about Taylor Swift before and after folklore was released. And I think this could definitely be a moment. I think Manic could be that moment, but also it's definitely possible that If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power is also that, because I think this shows Halsey, and I think her rawest yet, and I think it also shows her in like her most empowered and understanding where she wants to be. I think that's been very clear here, and I think it's very full-fledged, and I'm very pumped about it. With that said, I wanted to give some closing thoughts. Overall, I had a good time. It was an hour, so it wasn't like something that took up a lot of my time. I did have to drive like 30 minutes each way. So, I guess it did take up a full movie time, like in terms of commitment. But I had fun. Like, I definitely enjoyed it. I didn't know fully if I was enjoying it at the time. I think I was really vibing with every song that was playing. But in terms of the narrative, I didn't always know if I was going to like it. Just because I was a little nervous, since it was a pretty much a first like R-rated movie in the theater for me. And IMAX, it's like everything's just going to be loud and loud and loud. And so I would get nervous that like certain things would just jump out at me. But it turned out okay. I think it is a really cool companion piece, and I think it's very clever. I don't remember the last time someone really dropped an album with a whole movie as well. I mean, I understand K-12, and I understand that like Beyonce's done visual albums, but like I also don't know if I can remember like this kind of thing where it really is more of a movie and then you have like a killer soundtrack. I don't know. Like, there's definitely examples. Like, I'm just lost for words. Maybe I don't even know that some of them exist. So yeah, I think it's really cool. I think especially for a pretty mainstream artist to go into a more rock direction, go into that more alternative. I'm very excited to see how that goes. It's definitely an album I'm still really vibing with, and so watching the movie, it was just enhancing that experience for me. And I think this video will go up on Sunday, and I will be watching her live Moment House performance, and so I'm very excited to watch that, probably talk about it as well, and just really totally just vibe with this era that she's brought us, because I think it's amazing. I also am still figuring out what I learned, and if there's anything that I just didn't know and I figure it out later, like I probably might give an update during that video as well. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Leave as short or as long of a comment as you would like. I will read all of them. I'll love all of them. Thank you for your insight. The internet is really not helping in terms of figuring out what plot points I missed. Like, I look up plot synopsis of this movie and I just can't find it. So I hope that some of my feedback helped. I think I could probably do a short plot thing, but I also didn't want to drag this video on super long. And so I appreciate your patience and your kindness and your information, any information you have at all, or just your own thoughts on it. Like, I think it'd be really cool if I could read some more and see who else saw this movie and really vibed to it or really didn't. I would love to hear thoughts on anything. If you like this video, please like it, just comment down below so I can react or listen to next. Please subscribe to my channel if you're not already and you'd like to be. And thanks for watching. This is TurtleStormer. Catch you later. It's storming turtles from out of the sky. Turtles don't need to know why.